Welcome to the first episode of Uncontroversial Facts Only, UFO for short. I'm Kelsey,
And I'm Korey.
and this podcast will mainly revolve around aliens and supernatural, unexplained events. We will mainly be researching certain topics that we deem worthy and provide our thoughts and opinions on said topics. But first, we will start with some fun questions for you guys to get to know us a little more.
So the first question will be, what is your favorite type of alien, your least favorite type, and why? So do you want to answer that first?
Okay, I can answer first, I guess. So, my favorite type is kind of family bias because those are the stories that I've heard growing up, and mostly from my grandpa. My grandpa used to tell us that there's two types of grays. So my favorite type is the grays. The
Oh.
grays, there's the tall ones, and they're nice, and they help humanity they prevent us from killing each other with like nukes. And there's the short grays who are really evil and they abduct people and they do surgeries and they probably kill us. And I think that they're evil because they're short and they're angry about it. But
So,
don't come
yeah,
for me.
that's what I have a question on. Like, why are the short ones associated with like mean and evil, whereas like the tall ones are the nice ones? Like, how is height associated with these traits?
I think my grandpa would just hear stories, and if
Mhm.
some bad things happened, it was short grays, and if it was like good things, then it's tall grays. But so like I just heard him say that he was like really into aliens, I think, like, and
As
verbally,
like
yeah.
everybody. So going off of that, my favorite one is also the gray aliens. I think it's just because they're probably the most like the common ones that you hear about and the ones that you see like when we think about aliens. Um, Although I'd probably be very scared if I saw one in real life. I want to say compared to all the other alien species that I've researched, like that's probably my favorite one. Plus, in a way, I think they look a little cute. Like, I guess the depiction of them is a little cute. Like when we think of aliens, we think of like those like giant black eyes and like round heads and stuff. But then if I did see it in real life, I'm sure I would shit my pants.
What are your least favorite? Because that brings me to another point that I want to talk about, which was texture. But first, let me hear what's your least favorite.
My least favorite would definitely have to be the Nordic aliens. Like, I think they are also like dubbed the tall whites. So those are the ones who characteristically look very human and, they are generally associated with like piercing blue eyes, super pale skin, just like an Aryan race. And I don't know, the thought of something that is human looking but isn't human scares me.
Yeah, I wonder if so this is off topic, but the Men in Black, I wonder if they themselves are aliens or if they're humans, and if they are aliens, are those the Aryan ones that people are talking about?
I definitely heard descriptions of some of them, and I want to say they kind of. I mean, I've heard like super pale skin with no eyebrows, but like very red lips. I'm like, is
Oh,
that
okay.
Aryan or is that just nasty?
Okay, so the Men in Black are just terrifying then.
Yeah, I think they're just a whole nother like subgroup if we
Yeah.
think about it.
Okay.
So, what are
So,
yours?
yeah, my least favorite aliens are the reptilians. But I feel like it's because I just don't think if aliens exist, they look like a fucking
Hmm.
lizard. Like,
Yeah.
but I just think that the lizard is not camouflage, and like at least the grays kind of you can pass like humanoid. Like the reptilians, I guess I don't know that much about them, but if they have tails, like I feel like they'd be slimy. But then I was thinking about that, and I was just like, maybe grays are slimy too. I don't know what grays are like.
True.
So
Like
yeah,
their skin texture. I mean, I always feel like there'd be a shine to it, like as if there's like some moisture.
yeah,
Like like it'd be a little bit slippery, not like our skin. But with
yeah.
the reptilians, like so you don't think of like scales or like what we have our reptiles in our
I
world.
do. I imagine like a lizard.
Okay.
So I think that's the other thing. I guess if they did exist, they would be kind of like they would have to be in the desert only, right? Those would not be the aliens that are abducting people in Alaska.
I think
So
it depends. Like, yeah, we're gonna associate those like traits with like desert environment, but like they are aliens to begin with, so
that's true.
they're out in space, and I don't have lizards up in space.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair. I was just thinking, like, if aliens, that seems more sci-fi to me. Like, I guess aliens are sci-fi, but it just seems more like Spider-Man, I guess, compared to Alien.
Oh, I see what you're
Lizard
saying.
people, yeah. So,
Yeah,
so reptilians are my least favorite.
I see.
Moral of the story.
All
They seem smelly too.
right.
All right, question number 2. Um, what's your favorite alien movie?
My favorite alien movie would have to be the Alien franchise. Like, I know that's just super basic. Like, literally, the title is Aliens. So I just feel like it's thriller, suspense. Like, I like all that associated with aliens. Although, in real life, if we were put into that situation and we did have to fight against like those alien species in that movie, like, I know I'm just ready to die because I cannot, you know, fight against those with
Yeah.
acid and stuff.
Yeah, the aliens in Alien they're pretty disgusting. I can't imagine, like, because they have the mouth in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
That's terrifying. If I saw an alien, like, okay, if I saw any alien, I would hope that I just had a heart attack before they brutally murdered me.
And then use your body to harvest their babies.
Yeah, like I just wouldn't want it. So for me, it's hard for me to decide. But like when I'll do the history of my favorite alien movies.
Okay.
So I watched War of the Worlds probably like 5 times in like 3 months when I was in elementary
Fanatic.
school. Yeah, when I was the one with Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know why I liked it so much, but I did. And that one's not my favorite, but I think it has good action in it. And the alien movie that scared me the most was The Fourth Kind. I recommend watching it, but don't look anything up about it. Like if you look it up, it's not as good. If you just go in not knowing what you're gonna see, then it's super good. Highly recommend. But do not Google because you're gonna ruin it for yourself.
It stars Mila Jovovich. I would know because I used to watch her all the time in Resident Evil. Just a side fact,
Oh,
fun fact.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go on to the next question. So it would be, what would you do if you found an alien? So would you like call the FBI? Would you take it home? Like, what would you do if you saw your favorite alien? Let's go with that.
Favorite alien?
Yeah. So the common grays. Well, for both of us.
I would call the FBI immediately. Like, even if it was a tall one, if it needed help, I would just be like, I can't help you. Like, I don't know what kind of food you eat. Um, I would just be too scared of like the consequences of keeping it, and yeah, I would call the FBI. I would say 99.9% of the time I would call the FBI, and the 0.1% is if it looked really cute. Like not like ET, like Baby Yoda.
Yes.
I would take him home, and then I would be like, why did I take this home? Because I'd be waiting for the mothership to come and kill me.
You're just like, in that 0.1% chance of me doing that, I would risk my life to, interact with this little baby over here.
Yes.
So for me, I think I'm very hesitant to call the FBI just because I'm scared of what they would do to me. Like, I don't know if they will be on my side and, protect me. Like, what if they're like, what did you do to get this alien contact and maybe wipe out my memories or maybe make me go missing too? But I'm also on the fence on, how I would interact with the alien. If I saw it out the window, I'm just gonna let it go and do its thing. Like maybe, kidnap my neighbors. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. But if I came face to face with it, like if I was outside and I just, ran into it, I would just be very scared and just like let it do whatever it wants.
Does it matter if it's like crashed and injured? Like, do you think that that would change how you react, or
That I feel like no, just because if I'm scared of it, I would be scared of it regardless. Like if I saw an injured snake, I'm not gonna go up to it and be like, "Do you need help?" and let it bite me. Like I'm not
okay,
gonna do that. So yeah.
that's fair. Okay, next question. Since I skipped one. Uh, so I guess generally, what do you believe in? What's your stance on ghosts, demons, witchcraft, fairies, leprechauns? Let me know.
Yeah. So I kind of I'm very I'm a very open-minded person. I haven't really ruled out anything. Like I've honestly, I've done a seance. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. As a kid, I even, went to Michael's, got some glow-in-the-dark glue, made a pentagram, put my photo school ID on there and chanted some stuff for good luck. So, I've been involved, I guess, in witchcraft too. um, but I would say I'm not very enthusiastic about like dwarfs and elves. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it's a hatred for tiny things, but but I don't really see those, existing in our world.
Okay, same. I feel like ghosts real, demons real as hell. Keep that witchcraft away from me because that's real. I feel like fairies and leprechauns. I don't hear people talk about that kind of stuff, but if someone like a friend told me, Kelsey, it's real, I saw something, and they really believed it, I think they might be able to sway me because like I don't know everything. So it's just like if you've got a really believable story, then I'm
Mm.
maybe swayed. But as of right now, I would say no.
So when you say like dwarves and fairies, like are you thinking more about like forest myths? Because I feel
I
like they're very
guess.
associated with the forest.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the reason there's no forest, so there's no forest myths that I hear people talking
Mm,
about, like at least here
yes.
where I live. So, um, but I know that, like mutual friend Kelly, she told me once that when I was telling her like, oh yeah, I believe in everything, she was like, do you believe in, I think she said it was like a type of fairy leprechaun. She told me the name, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no. And she was like, oh, we have that. And I was just like, oh, do you believe in it? And she was just like, I don't know, maybe. So I think she was leaning no, but then at the same time, you're just like, but can people be lying? Can that many people be
Mm,
lying? Which I feel like a
mm,
lot of times that's something that makes me skeptical of like, yeah, I believe in science and stuff, and that seems fake,
yeah.
but or can that many people be wrong? And I
Yeah,
tend
that's
to
true.
believe people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like personal stories is usually what gets me into like certain things. Like I might go into a certain like topic and be like, what, I don't really believe or care in that, and then somebody will tell me a story. I'm just like, personal experience.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen you do
So
that.
yeah. So this next question is kind of related to that whole thing, but when did you become interested in this whole world, or what made you become interested in the world I'm talking about? Is like, this whole like supernatural, unexplainable world.
Yeah, I guess I could go first. I think I mentioned earlier, like my family, it like believes in supernatural stuff. So just growing up, I heard like stories of different things, stories about ghosts, stories about aliens, stories about people seeing maybe a demon or I don't know what, but things that make you scared. And then like not just family, I've heard like teachers at camp, and it's just like when I guess when it's
Mhm.
a trusted adult figure, you're just like, oh no, that person is not lying. Like I believe that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I feel like that makes me interested and that makes me lean towards belief, even though I
Mhm.
haven't necessarily seen anything.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just always been an interesting thing. Like when we watch movies and stuff, like that world is just, oh, like I wish that stuff was real. Um, I guess I've always been interested, but I've never really shown, like I've never researched or like really looked into all these different things, except for in college. You know, we were studying in the library, me and Kelsey, and then this was when we kind of didn't really know each other that well, and then she just flat out asked me like, "Do you believe in aliens?" I'm just like, good question. Like I've never like really looked into aliens, but at the same time I am interested. And then she starts telling me all of this like controversial stuff. And I'm just like, tell me more because like I'm getting more interested. And then I think that sparked my love for aliens. Like a lot of the people who know me now associate me with like alien stuff just because I cannot stop talking about aliens. But yeah, I definitely agree about the whole also like personal experience. Like my family has experienced like supernatural stuff. And so when I hear that, I definitely, you know, my parents are very, I want to say, um, they, I don't know if it's the right word for it, but they're just very believable when they say certain things. Like they're not going to make stuff up
Mm-hmm.
with me. And so when they've experienced what they've experienced, I'm just like, you know what, there has to be some truth to that because, you know, that's just unexplainable.
Yeah. Your point about the movies, I feel like that makes me also be like, okay, maybe somebody did experience this and they were like, I'm gonna make this into a movie. Because some of the stuff is so bizarre. It's like how can you imagine that?
Yeah, yeah. Unless you've
So
done drugs.
yeah. I mean even then, I don't know, like because you still have to make the plot and everything, and I feel like some of them are just too crazy.
Yeah.
Where it
I
makes
mean,
me be like that it has to be from personal experience.
plus with even like the more like I guess mainstream like topics like witchcraft and demons and stuff, it's like a lot of there's history to it and a lot of people have come forward saying all of this stuff. So even if it is like seems like so crazy, so far fetched, like there's lots of stuff backing up, you know, these people's stories.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever had an alien encounter?
Me personally, no. And I know you, the audience out there is wondering why am I on this podcast if I've never encountered aliens before. The thing is, you know, as a, you know, maybe you've had similar experience as a kid. Like, have you looked out the window at night and you're like, you see these like little lights flying around. You're just like, is that could not be a plane, right? Like, it has to be something like extraterrestrial. So I like who's to say what I saw as a kid wasn't a UFO? Like maybe that one time it was a UFO.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I've definitely seen some strange flight pattern like lights where it's just like that's not how a plane flies.
Mhm.
But like I remember being like in the car and being scared like oh my god, like that light is aliens. I'm so scared we're about to get abducted. Like I'll drive the other day, like even recently, I drive and there's like a road that makes a weird sound under the car. And I like the first time I heard it when I was on this road, I was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, I'm about to be like beamed into abduction. Like
You need to have Snapchat out open and like send me one before you get abducted. So I can at least know.
yeah, so I would say that I don't know if it's constantly, but I am ready to be abducted and scared of abduction at any moment. Like
So
I just don't want to.
you haven't personally encountered any though.
Personally, no, but I know I've told you before, I'll tell the audience listening. Um, so I have this story of my aunt when she was younger, probably like 17, and my cousin, older cousin, but I wasn't even born yet. They were a little kid, and they told my aunt like, oh, my aunt was gonna go to a party, and they told her like, no, like you can't go. Uh, they told me that something bad's gonna happen to you. She's like,
Mhm.
what? Who told you? And she's just like, they told me. And my aunt was just like, well, I'm gonna go. Like, stay away from me. Like, I'm gonna go to this party. Screw this little kid. So she leaves to the party with her friends. Even though my cousin was like crying, like, no, something really bad is gonna happen to you. And when she's at the party, everything's chill. and then some guy comes and like throws her on the ground, and then it was like there was like a drive by, and I don't know if anybody got hurt. I know everybody ran after,
Mhm.
but when she got up, she was like looking around for who got her, and it was just like that guy, whatever it was, guy or girl, I don't know, was gone, and it was just like she's just like I don't know what the fuck that was. And my little cousin, they used to, or my older cousin, they used to say that she used to be like she had friends in the sky, so
Mm.
they always were like fucking aliens. So that's why my aunt says that it was an alien, because she was just like saying they're telling me something bad is gonna happen to you. So they think that my cousin intervened and made them help her.
That is so crazy. Like I
Yeah.
cannot imagine like being your aunt and like having gone through that experience and also having like a little kid tell you like, something is gonna happen to you and then
Yeah.
something does happen.
Yeah.
Oof.
So I was just like, well, they'll probably never not listen to Little Kid anymore. It's like a real Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, Final Destination. Like,
Yes,
don't
yeah.
do it, something bad's gonna happen, and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna go anyways, and then the bad thing happens.
Mm, those
Don't get on that roller
premonitions.
coaster.
Yeah. Ooh, wow. Well, that was a good story. So we're gonna move on to the next question. It's if you had to be abducted, would you rather be probed or surgically altered, but not remember anything and wake up in bed? Or would you rather get innocently examined, like maybe get your blood drawn, get a little like what you get as a physical at a doctor's office, and then get abandoned in the middle of nowhere naked?
I thought about this one a lot because I'm kind of on the fence. It depends on what kind of surgery they do. Like, if I come back and I just have like a scar,
Mhm.
but I'm like a whole person. Like, if they implanted a tracker in me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Uh, but if like my finger is missing, or my hand, or my leg or something, then I would still be terrified because obviously something happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
but but I think I would be more terrified of being abducted and seeing aliens, because then I would just feel so powerless. Like,
Yeah.
and then nobody believes you. So I think I would prefer to just wake up in bed and not remember, unless they stole a leg from me.
Yeah. You're like, I gotta remember so I can come back and get you guys for that leg. Yeah, I honestly didn't think about that. Like the whole people not like believing you, and like if
Yeah.
you remember, like that's crazy because there's a lot of people who we dub as crazy in the world, and maybe they're telling the truth, and like nobody's just out there to believe them, and they just spiral out of control.
Yeah.
So for me, this is a really hard one for me because I feel like the safest choice would be, to not remember, let them do whatever they want and just let me live my life, you know, as I would, not thinking that aliens had intervened. But I would be very scared what they do to me. Like, let's say they do put a tracker or they put something in me that changes who I am.
Mhm.
Like maybe they want to control me or something, and like not knowing that is very scary. Like, I guess I would have like impulsive thoughts and be like, was that really how I thought? Or, is somebody out there controlling
Mm.
my thoughts? But at the same time, being thrown out naked in the middle of nowhere, like, think about how crazy that is. Like, have you ever walked home, like, late at night, normally dressed, just walking home? That shit's scary already.
Yeah.
Now, put in the context of the middle of nowhere, a forest, naked. Like, if I don't die from that whole operation, I'm gonna die from the animals out there because I know I'm not gonna survive myself in the wilderness, defenseless. So
That's
yeah,
true. Yeah. That's true. I didn't think about being exposed to elements like that.
yeah.
But
It's like
yeah.
if the aliens don't kill you, the world's gonna kill you.
Yeah. Okay. Um, what's your favorite alien theory?
Mm, I feel like this might be something that you've already told me, but the whole theory about how they have already come into contact with us, the US president actually, specifically,
Hmm.
and they had to make a deal where they would be able to kidnap a certain number of people. I don't know how often, but like they would, let's just say every year they get to kidnap a certain number of people. And for me, it's just like that's my favorite because number one, they exist, if that's true. Number
Yes.
two, they have some form of communication with us and we're able to communicate back with them. Like
Mm.
that, I feel like is crazy to think about. And number three is to me, it's just like if the president did do this deal, like what was this whole deal? Like, did they just get to do whatever they want and then they spare our lives? Or did they, maybe trade us maybe some of their technology and like showed us some
Mm.
type of information? And then we are like, okay, we're okay with you doing whatever as long as we get this part of the deal. And even if they were able to kidnap people, like, who's to say like who gets kidnapped? Like, what if they decide one day, I'm gonna steal your wife and your kids, president? Like, is he just supposed to be okay with that? Like,
Yeah, that's
that to
true.
me is why that would make it the favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that one's intriguing. That's not my favorite, but
Mhm.
I think that if we were contacted, I don't know how much bargaining power we would have, or if it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, 50 people, 1,000 people, like that's fine. Like it's not all however many people are on Earth, like 3.5 billion or whatever. So it's just like
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we didn't have a lot to offer other than maybe just saying we'll keep it quiet. We
Yeah.
won't tell people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, but that seems scary. My favorite theory is that aliens stopped nuclear war. Um, Basically, there's this theory that the US, I don't know if it was like on like the president said we're launching a nuke or
Hmm.
if it was an accident, but I've heard stories about like that there's different like army personnel who say that they were there that saw it. I haven't done that much research into it though, so I can't really speak to it, but
Yeah.
there's basically army witnesses which I feel like are mostly credible people. And then they say that they were gonna launch and then it just got shut down. So the theory is that aliens prevented it, that they shut down whatever. I don't know if they shut down a nuclear reactor, but they prevented a launch from happening. So I think it was the tall grays and they saved humanity. No, I was
That's
just
so
kidding. But
interesting.
yeah.
Like, what would be their reason for stopping that? Like, they obviously like us enough to spare our lives.
I'm thinking kind of like with the abductions, it's just like we're one big experiment.
Ooh. Yeah, they're just like, we're just too interesting to just let go.
Yeah, like in Lilo and Stitch when they or I don't remember the little skinny guy, but he's like Planet Earth, where we're saving the last of the mosquitoes or whatever.
Oh yeah, what the not even us.
I know, not even the humans.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I guess this is kind of another related question. How do you think aliens communicate? Do you think it's like telepathy, verbal signage, or do they just know all of like human language or all language basically in the universe?
I like to think that they communicate with each other telepathically. Just because they're so much more intelligent than us. And then I'm thinking maybe our language and everything is like really primitive, so maybe they don't speak. I don't know. Do aliens have mouths? I don't remember what graves look like. I guess it depends on the depiction, but I imagine that they can write or like
Yeah, like I feel
talk
like
some kind of other way. Go ahead.
oh yeah, I was just gonna say about the whole mouth comment. I think so. Like usually, what how we see their depiction, they have a mouth.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like it's such a different base And if I was abducted and someone told me what did they look like, I would just be like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. I passed out from fear.
That's so true because it's just like, are their eyes, or even if they have eyes, like would they be somewhat similar to ours in the same position? Like it could be like eyes where we would think the neck is. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
it's just like, I don't know. And I feel like I imagine them being more advanced, more evolved,
Mhm.
and telepathy seems cool. So I think that
Yeah.
they have it. What about you?
I mean, I think telepathy is cool, but at the same time, it's too crazy for me to fathom. Like, it's just like I think it's because we can't really comprehend how that would work. That for me, it's just like it's a no go for now. I mean,
Mm.
obviously, if I start hearing stuff, I'm just like, okay, I'm all for this because it exists. But I would assume it has to be something that we can comprehend, like maybe something more physical, or maybe they do use some kind of signage. Maybe they can write in our language or
Mm,
something.
okay.
But at the same time, I think that because they're so technologically advanced, that they probably maybe even have some type of device that can translate easily. Just
Yeah,
like obviously we can translate between different languages, they could somehow translate between different species.
that's true. You can now like open Google and it will translate your conversations for you, like if you're in another country. So I'm
Exactly.
sure they've got something better than
They better,
that.
or else they cannot be aliens.
Okay. If there was an alien celebrity or a celebrity pretending to be human who was really alien,
Mhm.
who do you think it would be?
So, do you know the music artist Grimes? I mean, you should because of the whole Elon Musk
Okay.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know her in that context.
So she is Elon Musk's girlfriend, and they did have a baby together pretty recently, with a very eccentric name.
Right.
I still don't know how to pronounce it, so whoever's listening, please just Google it if you're curious as to what the baby's name is. But to me, she might represent like an obvious alien. Like, if you listen to her music, they're just very like to me otherworldly. Like her voice, you need to listen to her music. Her
Mm.
voice is very different
Was it
from.
like robotic?
She does have some songs that give you a robotic vibe, but I don't know what to say. Like you could think of like Fairy Girl sometimes. Like she's just very different. I want to
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
listen to her music because it's very hard to put into words. But also, like, she's dating Elon Musk, who is, heading SpaceX.
Mm.
Mm,
Okay. She's
who is
giving him
giving
the
him,
deets.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, who's giving him all the deets? Like, he should be too busy dealing with Tesla to be able to also juggle SpaceX and a baby. So
That's true.
that
So they have an alien hybrid, you're saying? She birthed an
exactly.
alien hybrid.
Ooh, I honestly have not seen the baby at all, but it must be. It must be.
And that simple, weird, simple word must be its alien name. It all makes sense suddenly.
She's like, okay, you can keep the human form, but you must have an alien name. Like you're
Yeah.
keeping the human form.
Okay, my celebrity alien is Nicolas Cage
Nicholas.
because, yep. Okay, first of all, he has an alien movie, which I feel like is suspect. Like I think he's trying to tell us I'm here, I'm on Earth.
Is it the knowing or something like that?
Something like that. The
Okay.
knowing or yeah. I don't it's weird. But his alien movie. I heard when I was in school there was a debate if it was aliens or angels. And I was intrigued. I was like, what if they're the same thing?
Oh, yeah,
What if they're the
yeah.
same thing though?
That's true.
So yeah. So but basically he's I hate how he acts. It's got to be he's pretending to be a human because he has the same like monotone. For me, he's not even acting. He's just existing on screen and he says lines. And it's just like this guy sucks. So he must be an alien and he must be threatening people for parts, doing
Okay, gotcha.
abductions, and because Yeah, he's faking being a human. He's not real.
He sounds like a really selfish alien. Like, give me this part to this movie in your world for no apparent reason. I just want to be in this movie.
Exactly. He's trying to say that we're here and be scared.
Wow. Well, what type of alien species would you say he's tall gray?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought about like if tall grays, if they look like, if they can look more human, or if they like can wear human camouflage.
Hmm. Hmm.
I guess I haven't thought about it that much, but maybe he could be. Maybe he's an Aryan with contacts and dyed hair.
True, true.
Like, I don't know. I feel like if aliens have the capabilities that we think they have, then they should be able to do some plastic surgery and get some tan skin. Like, they can do it.
If we can do it, they can definitely do it. Come on.
Exactly. Maybe that's why they abduct people, to go into their body.
Oh my God. Good theory. Good theory. All right. So that's pretty much all the questions we had. I hope, they let you guys know more about our stance on certain things and just kind of like what type of people we are. But the main meat of this first podcast is to talk about the Roswell Incident. So the Roswell Incident, happened in Roswell, New Mexico, and it is kind of like one of the most, I guess, popular alien encounter stories. And so we definitely came in not knowing a lot about it. And so we just wanted to do a research and let you guys know what we found. And so I'll start with like a small short summary about the whole incident, and hopefully you guys will get to know more about it. So the first two dates are debatable, but the general consensus was that on July 2nd, a flying saucer or a weather balloon was struck down by lightning. Then on July 4th, 1947, a rancher by the name of Mac Brazel notices unusual debris in his sheep pasture outside of Roswell, New Mexico, and he picks up metallic sticks, foil and plastic reflectors, and scraps of heavy, glossy material. The next day, he hears people talking about flying disc sightings that causes him to think that the debris he found was linked to these sightings. On July 7th, Brazel called the Roswell sheriff, George Wilcox, who then contacted the Roswell Army Air Force Base to take a look. The soldiers arrived immediately to Brazel's pasture and pretty much took all the evidence and disappeared with little explanation. Then on July 8th, the Roswell Daily Record had issued a statement from the Roswell Army Airfield that mentioned that a flying disc had crashed due to a powerful storm. The Roswell Daily Record then had to make corrections to the article after the United States Army Air Forces issued a statement saying that it was actually a weather balloon and not a flying disc. This would later be linked to a classified project named Project Mogul. So that's pretty much just like a quick, brief summary of the actual Roswell incident.
Yeah. So I guess we can start off with what the wreckage was. Like, what did they find?
Mhm.
So, like, I looked at pictures, and mainly what you can see in the pictures is like aluminum foil looking sheets of metal, I guess. And they
Yes,
look pretty flimsy. It looks like aluminum foil that you can find in your kitchen. And then,
exactly.
yeah. And then like they said, paper sticks, and I don't know if you read anything else,
No,
Korey.
that's pretty much like I've also looked at the pictures and they're pretty consistent to what you just said. It just looked like flimsy aluminum foil pieces and nothing to me that would stick out as otherworldly.
Yeah. And I did read that they found tape with flowers on it, and when I read that, I was like, I'm sorry, that is got to be human tape. That is not alien tape. Like, aliens do not have flowers
So
on their tape.
I actually, a lot of witnesses have came out and said that, when like Brazel came to them talking about like the debris he found, they've actually associated the I think it would be the tape with the flower patterns on it. They actually associate that with alien hieroglyphics. So I don't know if it was
Okay.
because of the context of this is an alien wreckage, and now that we're seeing these weird symbols, maybe instead of seeing flowers, they saw like alien language instead.
Okay.
So
I hadn't seen
uh,
that theory. That is interesting. But yeah, I was just like, flowers? That ain't no alien tape. Like, I was just like,
so
no.
true. Just like, come on. You, did you go to the dollar store and see what was available?
But yeah, like, I guess when I saw what I saw, it wasn't what I was expecting to find, considering like how well known Roswell is, just like an alien crash site. Like, I
Yeah.
would think that there would be like a cockpit, some kind of, buttons, um, thicker metal that can support weight of some
Yeah.
kind of alive thing.
So yeah, I think I agree. Like I expected something more, I guess, substantial.
Hmm.
Like I was like, for me, I think of there should be some type of energy source, right? So like I was thinking maybe wires or maybe at least something unexplainable, like not a piece
Mm.
of foil.
Something
And so
that
I
maybe we
also
don't know what it is, right? Like, so, oh, it could
exactly
be an
because like
energy source.
exactly like this is something like I don't think a piece of foil would be. Who is to say it's not an energy source? It could be, but right now I'm thinking foil is not an energy source to fly a saucer.
True. I guess like thinking about the wreckage itself, I would expect, I don't know, I guess just like more weightier stuff. All that seemed like too small.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or like maybe even like unrelated. Like I don't think foil is the first thing that comes into mind when people think of flying saucers.
Hmm. Exactly. And
Um,
I know that you looked it up, and I looked it up. So aluminum foil has existed since like the 1910s, I think. And
yes.
by the time that in the 40s it was being used in kitchens, I don't know how much it was being used on in ranches, like in New Mexico
Mm,
compared to like
mhm.
New York or something, but it seems like it was common enough where people would have probably been able to recognize it. So, yeah,
I
if you
agree.
want to
Like
talk about your witnesses.
mm. I mean, I agree with the aluminum foil and like how it was perceived during that time.
Hmm.
Like by the time it was 1940s, like people were commonly using that in kitchens. And I know like although this is in New Mexico and like mainly in the ranches, like once they came out with that report and people saw the pictures, if it was commonly used in the kitchen, they should have saw that and was like, hell no, that ain't no like alien flying saucer pieces. Like I got that in my kitchen. Like they should have known and it shouldn't have blown up as, alien wreckage if it was that common. But yeah, I will go into basically the witnesses that I've looked into and the people who did, I guess, have a part in the whole alien wreckage debris. So we know that Major Jesse Marcel, he said that when he encountered this wreckage, it was, otherworldly material. He said that although there was stuff that looked like foil, it was surprisingly very strong. And even if you would try to crumple it, it would, retain its shape. It wasn't, flimsy and easy, just like how we would associate foil in our world right now. And so the grandson of Major Marcel, he actually said that the photograph we see of him with the debris is actually a government cover up and that that isn't actually the wreckage that they have found. They had to do a quick cover up story, and so they just got a weather balloon and told him to take a picture with it, and so that was what came out. And so he even said when you look at the picture, there's a picture of Jesse Marcel with the foil. It's probably like one of the most common popular pictures out there. And then he says, I mean, it might sound a little crazy, but he said if you focus on the eyes of Jesse Marcel, he is looking at the person behind the camera or a person that isn't pictured on the camera. And he's saying that, he's basically taking orders from someone to like, pose with this weather balloon and make it believable. So
that's interesting. I also, because I try to come in here with the skeptical mind, and I was thinking aliens were involved.
Yes.
But I was also like, how do we know that what they showed pictures of is what they got?
Mm-hmm.
If they are trying to hide something. So, but about Marcel saying, so the grandson you're saying said that it's not what they recovered.
Yeah, he said that his grandfather told him like the true story, and so obviously Jesse Marcel isn't alive anymore, and so his grandson's basically coming out with the story and saying, this is the true thing.
I was gonna say that's interesting because I've heard people like who tried to discredit what Marcel has said in my research. They were saying that he's kind of infamous for changing his story, and that they've asked him like, okay, you found this in the wreckage, and he's like, yes. And then they're like, okay, well, we've already verified that that's from a weather balloon. And then he'll be like, oh no, that's not what I got from the wreckage or something. So he would change his story, but he was confirming, I guess my point is, he was confirming that the pictures are real.
Oh, interesting. Do you think it's like because the government is like, I don't know at what time he was saying like, oh, those are real pictures, and then going back to his family telling them those are not the real pictures? Like, do you think it's like mostly maybe government pressure?
I don't know. I think that there is pressure, and that's why I would not even risk picking up an alien, and that's why you would be scared to pick up an alien. So
yeah, that's true. You can't win either way.
Yeah. So it's just like I would believe that if they tell you do not say anything, then you wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's interesting to me. I hadn't heard that the grandson was saying that those aren't the real pictures. Okay.
Yeah. So like I wanted to confirm more about like what was actually found. Like if Jesse Marcel is saying this story, like obviously Mac Brazel, who was a rancher who, came upon this debris, should at least have some story that is similar to Marcel's story. So I looked further into it, and Mac Brazel didn't really have any, like interviews or any information he came out with. But obviously, family is probably the next go-to for information, and he did tell his son Bill Brazel, and his son said that there were like balls that looked like wood, but they were not easily destroyed. And so like he said he got his knife and he would try to like carve into it, and like it was not like wood at all. And he also, just like how Marcel said, there was some type of like tin-like material that was not easily malleable. Like it was very strong and it kept its form. Like I think they did say you could change its shape, but as soon as like you let it go, like it would pop back to what its original form was like.
Okay.
So yeah, for them that was considered otherworldly. And so Brazel also had a neighbor named Loretta Proctor, and she said that, he came to her and showed her what he found, and that she recalled something that looked like tape. So maybe it's like the flower tape. But
Okay.
instead of flower patterns, she said that there was weird writing similar to hieroglyphics. What I found interesting was in her story, she said that it kind of looked Asian, like Japanese, but it wasn't Japanese, and very similar to the grandson of Jesse Marcel. He also, like, I think their family was also going with that story of that there looked like some type of Asian writing, but it wasn't, Asian characters. So I found that to be interesting. Like, they seem to be not very related witnesses. And so if they're coming out with very similar stories, like, could we say that's somewhat believable? Or maybe they just both saw something that they couldn't really explain and they just came up with this explanation.
Yeah. I going along with like your witnesses that said that they handled the material. So I listened to a witness. Her name was Marilyn Strickland. She was
Mhm.
the neighbor of I think Mac Brazel. So she was in the area. She said, "Look, I never left. I never handled it, but my daughter did." And she was like, "My daughter was around 10, and she was just like that. Her daughter told her that she handled one of the foil pieces,
Mhm.
and that she said she wasn't impressed with it, like it was very thin, and but that it was very tough. She was, I think she's like, she said, I just remember her saying tough a lot.
Mhm.
So again, with like kind of the super strength, I guess, of it, because like, I mean, foil is not strong. Aluminum foil in the kitchen,
Yeah.
it's like you move it wrong and you got a hole.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that there's different ways to like grab it or different ways to make materials. So maybe it's not aluminum foil or maybe it's not that thin, but like it could be, it sounds like it could be different, but it seems like not that much. I don't know. I guess the pictures look unremarkable, but there are a lot of people who say that the material was not something that they've ever seen before.
Yeah, I agree. Like with pictures, it's like we really only saw like two, three views of this debris, and it wasn't like in-depth pictures either. Like they didn't point out to us that like, this is exactly what we found. Like I did not see pictures of this tape
Hmm.
that had some type of pattern. Like if we had pictures of those, I feel like we could then cross-reference to the descriptions from these witnesses and see if it somewhat looks like what they said, and then we can be like, you know what, it was actually really they're just mistaken, it was actually flower patterns. But we didn't get these pictures at all. So I'm over here thinking like this is something very consistent with a lot of these witnesses, and we haven't seen this evidence from the government or from any records. So, could it totally be made up? Or like if it is, like why, or like if it's actually real, why isn't there enough evidence for us to be like, okay, it was just tape.
I kind of want to do some research now to find out if they were selling tape with flowers on it in the US at the time. Like, to me, the tape with like basketball designs or whatever seems kind of new. Like,
Yeah,
same with the
yeah.
band-aids. Like, that all seems kind of new. Like, maybe I would believe more that it's hieroglyphics if I could confirm that there was no flower tape.
Yeah. Plus,
But
why flower tape? Is that just like a cheap option? Like, why not just plain tape? I feel like patterns would be a little bit more expensive.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So,
interesting.
yeah, that is interesting.
All right. So that is pretty much, I guess, our opinions and thoughts on the wreckage itself. We did want to go more into, how did this thing blow up 30 years later? Because, the Roswell incident died down. Like nobody was really talking about it for 30 years. And then suddenly there was this whole revival and it blew up and, kind of popularized the whole UFO slash alien like idea.
Yeah, like a bunch of movie or a movie, a bunch of books, like
Hmm.
suddenly everyone was into Roswell again. So,
So for me, I think through my research, it kind of started off with this ufologist by the name of Stanton Friedman. So he became really interested in the topic of Roswell, and then he ended up getting the help from Charles Berlitz, who is the author of the 1980 book, The Roswell Incident. So, this ufologist became very interested and he wanted to seek out more information because he thought it was very weird. And maybe he was seeking, like, maybe because he is a ufologist, he wanted there to be some alien intervention. And so he wanted more information to confirm or, refutes that this ever became a thing. And so he actually started with an interview with Major Jesse Marcel. And so we know, I mean, we talked about Major Jesse Marcel already, but I can kind of give a little background of who he was. He was just an intelligence officer for the Roswell Army Air Force who is actually the first responding officer to deal with the Roswell debris. So in a way, he is a very credible source because he was actually involved with this whole ordeal. And something that's very interesting is his kids also say he was very well versed in radar technology. So they are saying that he knows the difference between a weather balloon and what's not a weather balloon. So for him
Mm.
to, come out 30 years later and say it wasn't a weather balloon at all, it was, otherworldly material, they were saying that because he knows a lot about what these projects and what type of technology they were working with, that he is a credible source.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard. I guess I didn't do that much research on Marcel, but um, that's interesting because I know that when the crash first happened and the army originally released that we recovered a flying disc. So they're the ones that first put that verbiage out there. Like
Yes.
they said they recovered a flying disc and then kind of the initial chaos happened. And when they were communicating back with the army base, they couldn't confirm that it was a weather balloon because I guess maybe they just didn't have enough pieces. But then the next day, like you said, they clarified that no, it was just a weather balloon
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. That's all like really to me interesting that like it's kind of like back and forth like that you have people saying, oh, it's a weather balloon. You have people saying that it's not a weather balloon. And it's like, who do we believe? Because even this first responding officer, who is supposed to be very well versed in radar technology, he basically had to come out saying that it was a weather balloon. But why did they come out saying it was a flying disc to begin with?
So actually, maybe the reason, so he knows what a weather balloon looks like, but this
Yeah.
wasn't a weather balloon, right? Project Mogul technically wasn't a weather balloon.
Yes.
Maybe that's the discrepancy there then.
I think it is a very gray area because like some people his kids are saying because he's very well versed in it that he knew kind of like what type of modern technology they were coming up with. He
Okay.
is part of the Army Air Force, so they're saying that he probably did have access to it, but at the same time it's like it is a classified project, and so how much would he actually know?
Yeah. Okay. Those are interesting though.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the first story that came out in the 1980s was pretty basic. It was that there was a wreckage near Roswell, and they recovered pieces of some unknown object that had been flying at some point, and then a farmer, Brazel, comes and he picks it up. He takes it to town. He tells the sheriff, and then the army comes immediately and they take it, and then they have this press conference, and then they say actually it was nothing, like no big deal, and the story dies. But when the 1980 book came out, they I don't remember who the author was, but they interviewed Jesse Marcel.
Yes.
And Jesse, this is like the first instance I think of someone saying like no, actually what they said over back then, that it was normal, it was just a weather balloon, that it wasn't from Earth. So like that was the beginning, but then very quickly more witnesses, more stories, and like everything exaggerated. I don't know if you want to go into anything that what it became, I guess,
Yeah.
Korey,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. So actually, the the whole 1980 story was very different from, I guess, what we would know as Roswell right now. They've actually stated that alien spaceships were monitoring the atomic and rocket testing sites, but on July 2nd, 1947, one of the spaceships was struck by lightning, and some pieces fell on the ranch, near Roswell.
mhm.
But actually, the spaceship traveled for over 100 miles, and it crashed at the plains of St. Augustine. So the real, I guess, wreckage was not at Roswell. Like there were pieces that fell down there, but
Mm.
the main alien ship, crashed at the plains of St. Augustine.
So that's even according to the 1980 version.
Yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
this story did evolve, and so eventually this whole St. Augustine story was pretty much scrapped. And so there might not be any credibility in the story, but I'm just surprised to see that, the story started out very differently and then suddenly it became a whole different story.
Yeah.
To continue, there was radar operators at White Sands Missile Test Range that observed the crash on their radars and ordered a search at first light. So they're saying that, there are people, that's how they knew of this crash. It wasn't just like, oh, somebody was walking around and then they suddenly saw this. So that's why they were able to get dates for this, because then,
Okay.
they have all these other people involved. And so there were actually a team of archaeologists working at the plains of St. Augustine who accidentally discovered the wreckage and the alien bodies. And so the military later show up, kick out all witnesses to collect the wreckage. People did say there were alien hieroglyphics up in there. The archaeologists who found the wreckage said they found humanoid alien bodies that were about 4 feet tall. The military cleaned up
Mm.
the wreckage, ordered all witnesses to keep quiet. The wreckage was then sent to higher headquarters. And then within hours, General Ramy came out with the first press release stating that the wreckage was actually a weather balloon. So this was kind of like the whole 1980 version of the story. And like, obviously, when we talk about it, we did not say any of these details at all. And I'm just surprised as to like, where was this information coming from? Like, who were these witnesses and why later on did this get refuted?
Yeah. I would say like so each book, so that's the 1980 version. And then
Yes.
after that, each book that was published has new witnesses and new claims. Like eventually there's more than one crash site. I think near Roswell there's like reportedly craters. You would think that there would have been a picture or something of
Yes.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And there's supposed to be like more aliens, then suddenly there's alien autopsies, and then I think the last version had that Eisenhower went to the base, to the army base, and looked at the body. So I think that like over time, the witnesses, because this is 30 or more years later,
Yeah.
so the witnesses are second and third hand. And it's just like, I don't know about the credibility of most of them. It
I
just
agree.
seems, yeah, it just seems like, at a certain point people will start exaggerating. And there have been sci-fi movies now, right? Now people know about aliens. So it's just like, it seems more likely that you would have heard a story about it.
Yeah. I think also like the whole variation throughout the books. I kind of stopped looking at the books right before the Roswell report came out, so the 1994 Roswell report by the government. So I just kind of looked at the books from 1980 to before that report release, just to see, what kind of like, variations occurred. And, St. Augustine was, the first like crash site, but it was eventually thrown out as like there's multiple books throughout the years, and then suddenly it disappeared. Like they just focused more on Roswell. The radar tracking story disappeared too. I think they were just due to lack of evidence. Like, I don't know how it first became a thing, but then suddenly there were not any credible witnesses to be able to back up this information. So that was definitely gone. There was consistent recollection of alien hieroglyphs, though. So obviously, we've seen from Jesse Marcel and like Brazel, like seems to be a very consistent thing, but everybody eventually debunked it as novelty tape that had flower-like designs, like you said before.
Mm.
So again, debunked that theory. Something I found really interesting was that most of the evidence revolving around the wreckage recovery and alien bodies comes from this guy named Frank J. Kaufman. I thought, if most of the theories came from him, why isn't he a big name? Because I didn't really see him in a lot of things. But people are saying that, he's the main guy who was spewing about, alien involvement. And so After he passed away in 2001, there were researchers who went through his office and concluded that he had forged all these documents and made up all these stories, making him not a credible source. So because now the one main source of alien involvement is not a credible source, people are saying, we can
Yeah.
debunk this as, there was no alien involvement. And so another guy by the name of Carl Flock, who very thoroughly investigated the whole incident, concluded that this whole thing was a non-event. He believed that the wreckage was actually an NYU balloon train that was launched on June 4th, 1947, and that the whole alien conspiracy was mostly linked to Kaufman's stories. So, in a way, it evolved from, all this crazy alien involvement to nothing.
Yeah. That's basically, but not without like affecting how we perceive the world. Like I looked up a
Oh, yeah.
poll from 1997 from CNN, and 80% of Americans in 1997 believed that the government was hiding alien knowledge or existence of extraterrestrial life forms. So
Dang, did you just say 80%?
80% believed that the government was lying about aliens. And
Damn.
75%, well, 75% said, I don't know anyone who's seen an alien, but I believe, like personally, but I believe that there are people who have. And 54% believed that there was intelligent life. So 80% think that there is life outside, and 54 believed that they were intelligent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it sounds like the general consensus is most of the population of the world believe that there has to be some type of alien linkage to our world.
Right. So the U.S. Majority of the U.S. population thinks that aliens are real. The government had to respond because all these books are coming out, all these movies. So they actually did. The government ended up publishing their own. They're known as the Air Force reports, and it was their
Mhm.
findings on what is Roswell. So
Yeah.
the first set of findings was released in 1994, and that mostly addressed the wreckage itself.
Mhm.
It didn't really address the allegations that alien bodies were found. It was just the wreckage.
Yeah.
And basically, they concluded that, like you said before, the alien wreckage is not alien. It was a result of the classified project, Project Mogul.
Mhm.
And they had the NYU students who were involved in it had just launched in New Mexico on June 4th their high altitude balloon,
Yeah.
and that's what the wreckage was. And the balloon, or like the project itself, it was to monitor. It was like research for finding a way to monitor uh, if the Soviets were testing nukes.
Yeah.
So they obviously, this is like Cold War time. So the U.S. was really worried about Russia getting nukes. I don't think they did until like 49. So this was in the 47, but
Yeah.
they were worried about it. They were monitoring, and this launch did happen very, very close to when the wreckage was found. So it seems plausible. And I mean, I haven't seen pictures of a particular balloon, only like design schemes, but it seems like it has big metal sheets, kind of like what they found. So to me, it seems plausible.
Yeah, I think we probably saw some very similar pictures, and they did vary a lot, like when you tried to look for what type of balloons was involved in Project Mogul. And I do agree that there were a couple pictures that looked like, oh, if one of these pieces fell off, it looked very, very similar to what was depicted in the pictures that we see linked to the Roswell incident. Yeah, I want to add that for the 1994 Roswell report, they did go, yeah, very in depth onto, anything that had to do with Roswell. And they did conclude that there were no increase in operations, security, or any other activity related to the July 1947 date. So they're just saying that, like, yes, there was government involvement, but at the same time, there was nothing suspicious. Like, there couldn't have been a cover up if there was no increase in like all of these different sectors. And so, yeah, they did pretty much conclude that the balloons were from Project Mogul. This project was basically declassified in 1972. And so the materials, I couldn't really find a list of materials that they used to make these balloons, but I did see somewhere that they did use metal foil reflectors and polyethylene balloons, which is pretty much just plastic balloons, and metal sticks. So that seems very, similar to not only the pictures that we saw, but some of the descriptions, such as when Brazel said he found all of these like sticks and like foils in the debris.
Yeah, it seems plausible for sure. So that was the first report that they released in 1994. In 1997, they released an additional report where they addressed the claims about the alien bodies. And basically, they debunk a lot of the witnesses. They say that they are not credible, either on purpose, like they're maliciously trying to take advantage of people, or that they're mistaken, because there are a lot of military projects that happen in the desert, a lot of research.
Yeah.
So there are accidents of fighter pilots, like getting badly injured or killed, and they think that might be some of what the reports of the bodies are. And they think like the people who are not being malicious, maybe they found some test dummy drops because they were dropping dummies from parachutes in that area. So yeah, basically they found that people were lying on purpose or on accident, but that they misconstrued what happened, and it has led to these exaggerated stories of aliens.
Yeah, I think that's very common and like an easy thing to do. Like, if I like out my window right now and I see a crash dummy sent flying through the air and I don't know much about what's happening around me, I might come out and tell Kelsey right now, like, I just saw an alien body like flying through the sky. Like, I can't explain what happened, but that's what I saw. So I think that's a very good explanation as to why we're hearing all of these stories about alien bodies, although we have not had concrete proof that there were alien bodies found.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Did what you come in thinking change, or how do you feel now that you did all this?
So obviously, I didn't know a lot about Roswell to begin with. Like, I knew that there was definitely some sort of alien involvement, as what everybody's saying. Like, that's what the Roswell incident is famously known for. That there was some type of, crash site, and that's about it. And that there was a government cover-up. That's like the whole story I knew coming in. After doing my research, I felt very saddened by the fact that that I feel like there's not alien involvement in Roswell. A lot of the things I feel like we've heard and saw was easily debunkable. Like, I found foil that was super strong. Yes, there is concrete proof that there's a picture of you with foil that did not seem strong at all. The whole alien bodies, a lot of this has been hoax. A lot of people have, come out saying all this stuff. So we have yet to see, sorry for my coughs. We have yet to see any, I think, concrete evidence that says that they're aliens, but also a part of me does feel like the government could be covering up. Like, this could easily be a cover-up story too. Who is to say that, the government didn't tell, Marcel to pose with, a weather balloon that they just happen to have, take pictures of that while they send real wreckage to one of their concealed bases. And who is to say that, what the witnesses saw wasn't actually what they thought they saw. I mean, for me, it's a little like I'm still leaning more towards this is all debunkable. It is a weather balloon. There is an alien involvement, just because nobody is an expert at aliens and alien technology. How do I know that this is alien hieroglyphs? And just Kelsey could just draw some weird symbols that just came into her mind right now, send it to me, and then who's to say that's alien hieroglyphs? Like, nobody's an expert at this at this stuff. So I feel like it's for me, I'm leaning towards what the government is saying. But at the same time, I'm not 100% trusting of the government.
Yeah, I think I'm like you. I came into this really hoping for some alien involvement. I was like, give me aliens, give me them now. But so like I was trying to, I'm reading the official reports and I'm looking at the telegrams and I'm trying to be skeptical because like the government admitted that they lied. Like in their reports, they said we lied when we said that it was a weather balloon. It was actually Project Mogul. And like I know they had things to hide, but it for me, if you're willing to hide one thing, you might be willing to hide something else,
Yeah.
So I was trying to be skeptical of those military reports because they already admitted they're liars.
Yeah.
But I think that there are some sketchy things. Like I was sketched out by how quickly they responded to the sheriff's phone call. Like they were there that day already picking up the wreckage.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that I was initially sketched out. I was weirded out that they decided to say that they recovered a flying disc when they first did it. And
I was
like
very surprised about that too. Like, why
yeah,
come out that it was a flying disc?
exactly. Like to me that is really weird because even then it didn't look like a well, whatever. Okay, maybe people saw when it first launched, and that was the flying disc. But
Yeah.
what was on the ground was not a disc. They could have
Yeah.
just said, we recovered pieces of a weather balloon,
Mm-hmm.
Why did they have to say it was flying disc? I don't know. To me, that was weird, and I was just like, maybe they messed up. Like these were mess ups that they did.
Yeah.
But
So an
yeah.
interesting question is like, so in a nutshell, it was just basically a weather balloon that got blown out of proportion, and the government had to basically come out saying that no, this is a weather balloon and not what you think it is. But to put it in a different context, let's say this weather balloon landed in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
And then you found it, and then you were coming out saying, oh, I have this weird stuff. I think it might be alien. Like, I'm not sure. Do you think the government would spend so much time and resources trying to debunk slash, you know, refute your ideas? Because if we think about Roswell, they really spent a lot of time, resources, money, everything to really tell people that this isn't alien.
That's true. I think it depends on what drops into your lawn. Like if it is something classified, then yeah, maybe they'll come and they'll confiscate it and they're gonna try to get it before you get it on the internet.
Yeah.
But to me, it seems like what was recovered, it's not like they recovered a radio transmitter. It's not like they recovered a microphone. So it's just like I don't know what was the big rush if it was just some pieces of foil.
Yeah.
But yeah. I also feel like okay, so I don't know if I said it, but I'm leaning towards that it's not aliens. Aliens are not involved. I'm sad. I'm sad about it. But
Yeah.
I think it's just that the witnesses have all kind of been found to be lying at some point.
Mm.
And so they're not all 100% credible. No one really started talking until 30 years later. So it's just like I wouldn't talk if the government told me not to talk, but at the same time, like it is a long time to wait to say anything, so that's kind of sketchy too. And I know sometimes over time your memory changes. So it's just like I think that people either on purpose or on accident have changed the story, and I think that it probably was Project Mogul. And
Yeah.
if it was an alien, I think that definitely there would have been word about an alien body that was recovered when it first happened. Like we wouldn't have to wait so long.
Exactly. I agree. Like, I think a lot of the witnesses, like, maybe they aren't lying as to that they saw something, but they definitely did not know what they saw because, how you could assume exactly, like, oh, I saw these patterns, so they must be alien. Like, I feel like that makes it, for me, seem like they seem less credible. Another thing I thought about was for like the families when they're talking about, their grandfather, like the Marcel family, and the Marcel family is still to this day very like dominant about how they feel like, that what their grandfathers found and said was very true and very alien. I just feel like they're not going to change their story at this point. Like there's already a legacy with their grandfather. So like, are you going to tarnish it and say, oh yeah, we agree that it is just a weather balloon and what my grandfather said was all basically a lie, or either he was just crazy? And then like, I don't think families would tarnish themselves and their reputation like that.
That's true. And also, how much have they devoted to like do they get anything like any kind of financial compensation for continuing to say that it was aliens?
I'm
Like I
I'm
wonder what they
sure
have to
they
gain.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they do. Like they're out here on television networks getting interviewed. Like
Mm,
if it's not that much monetary value, they are at least getting, fame from it. And,
that's true.
maybe there are some like really enthusiastic people like who are really into UFOs and aliens, and they built some type of community who support them and like, oh, if you donate to my family, we can maybe find out a little bit more for you. Like I feel like in this world, people are very money hungry and fame hungry. And so, that seems very, very what
Like
the Marcel family is doing.
yeah. Yeah, I think definitely money and then reputation are really big factors that would prevent people from changing a story. But I think that as the story developed, their grandfather, I think he just changed his story. And I feel like if he didn't change his story, I would believe him more. But he is known as someone who did.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
truly believe
yeah,
if you really experience that to the core, that, your story will be very unwavering. Like
yeah,
if I had something really traumatic or like crazy happen to me, I'm gonna remember probably every little detail that I can
yeah,
remember.
yeah, definitely. Or like yeah, everything that you do remember, you remember it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Well, that was pretty much the first episode of our podcast. We just went through the whole Roswell incident. I hope, everybody, kind of knows a little bit more about, what really went on with Roswell and why we associate it with aliens and the extraterrestrial stuff. Um, yeah, we don't know what our next episode will be about, but we will let you guys know. It's going to be probably crazier than Roswell. We hope that there will be more unexplainable alien interaction in there.
Yes.
And I think that's it for this podcast.
Yep. Thank you for listening.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.